It always pains me when I see someone quit learning Russian, whereas before they were full of motivation, but now they just struggle finding the motivation to learn it. And I've been learning Russian now for 9 years. So I know a thing or two on how to stay motivated in the long run so you can reach at least the conversational level and preferably the fluency level. And it basically comes down to two components. And I also explain to you in this video why learning Russian is like juggling. You always need to keep one ball in the air. All right, that was a stupid joke. But basically, learning Russian in the long term comes down to having two components right. And if you get these two right, it'll become very easy for you to continue learning Russian for a long time so that you reach your goals of becoming fluent in Russian. Now, the first part is you need to reconnect to the reasons why you're learning Russian. Let me show you a short story of how I got started. And I got started learning Russian in 2016 because I met a Russian girl in my university class. We started dating and I heard her speak Russian over the phone. We started listening to Russian music together. We started watching movies. And then the real thing came when she invited me to see her parents in Russia. We traveled there and had a great time. Now, I'm not saying that all of this together, it really made me feel very motivated to continue learning Russian. And I'm not saying that you need all these things to line up, because for me, the dominoes lined up pretty well, I have to say, if I look back at it in hindsight. But for some reason, for some people, it's just enough to just listen to music, to just watch series, to just have a Russian neighbor or someone in their community who speaks Russian. And they're like, that's a cool language. I want to learn it. And this is something that also grows over time. Like it doesn't, like for most people, it doesn't happen like they listen to a Russian song and are like, yes, I have to learn this language. No, you put in time and effort and then it grows. And then you have a conversation, you get feedback. And then it just, you know, your Russian level and your motivation, they just both go up. So whenever you hit a rough patch, like go back and think back to the reasons why you're learning Russian. Because to be honest, if you are here, if you're watching this video about how to stay motivated to learn Russian, you already are motivated enough. You just need to go back and reconnect with those things. What that exactly means for you, that's a difficult question that I cannot answer, but it might mean listening to Russian music. It might mean watching Russian movies or series. It might mean learning about the culture and history. It might mean reading Russian classics or just speaking to native Russian speakers. That can also be a very big motivation, actually. And I noticed that this worked for myself whenever I'm in Spain or listening to like a Spanish song, then I always get a feeling of, wow, it would be very cool to spend more time on my Spanish skills. I don't do that because I'm like, I want to really upgrade my Russian skills to get to a good level. But yeah, I understand the feeling very well. Now, once you got your motivation settled, you need to work on the second thing. And the second thing, let me tell you a short story, is, sorry, when I was, it was 2017, I'd been learning Russian for 1 year. And I felt like, all right, for my New Year's resolutions, I want to become C1 level in Russian. So basically fluent in Russian in 2017 by the end of the year. So in order to achieve that, I made an elaborate plan where I was going to spend like 1 to 2 hours a day on all sorts of stuff for the entire year. It's like, add another 500 hours to my Russian skills and I am going to become pretty fluent. Now, what do you think happened after a couple of days of following this elaborate plan? If you guessed that I quit, you're completely right. I just woke up in the morning, like the 4th of January, and I thought like, oh, this is too much. I first need to spend like an hour before I go to work. And then if I don't do it, I'll come back afterwards and I need to spend more time on that. And I just quit doing this plan. And then that's when I realized like, wait, why am I even creating all these weird plans? Because I analyzed like how much time and effort I was spending on it before. And I realized that even like without like really forcing myself to do it, I was spending anywhere between like 15 minutes to let's say 1 to 2 hours a day already on learning Russian, simply because it was like, I was just following my curiosity. Most of the time I was like listening to an audio lesson, like when I was going to work, whenever I had a couple of free minutes, I would just like use some app to learn some vocabulary. At night, I would watch a Russian series and then occasionally speak to native speakers. And all these things added up. It really didn't feel like I was spending a lot of time on Russian, but I was. And the trick here is that my my goalpost for like a successful day of learning Russian was pretty low. I was like, if I do one lesson a day, that's already enough, because I knew that like once things become a habit, it's like if you do something like listen to one lesson of my course, Russian Conversations Unlocked, for example, that's about 15, 20 minutes a day for a month each day or most days, like afterwards, it has become a habit, and it will almost feel weird if you don't listen to a lesson. And then once you've created the habit, afterwards it becomes so much easier than, hey, I already listened to one lesson, I might as well listen to another one. Oh, I might as well watch a Russian series at night. So the thing here is that do not try to put the goalpost of having a successful Russian learning day very high, because that will drain motivation so much. What you want to do instead is whenever you struggle with motivation, or whenever you have a busy period at work, or whenever you're traveling, you're on vacation, on holidays, you just want to scale back the amount of time or the activity that you're going to do to have a successful Russian learning day. I would say like 15 minutes on an audio lesson is completely fine. Most people can fit that in. And then just keep it up, and you'll notice that do this for 1, 2, 3 weeks. You'll notice that your motivation will come creeping back up, especially if you combine it with the first thing that I was speaking about. Because the most important part that I was saying here, that I spoke about in the beginning, you do not want to, like, it's such a shame if you quit during these moments, because you feel like, oh, I need to spend 1 to 2 hours a day on it. Much better to scale it down and to keep the habit going, and then you'll find that it's easier to scale it back up. So those are the two main things that I want to. So make sure you always keep a ball in the air if you're learning Russian. Alright, спасибо вам огромное за то, что вы посмотрели это видео. Я очень рад этому и желаю вам удачи в изучении русского языка. Пока.